Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into the practical side of resilience, focusing on Professional Practice 8 from DRI International.
That's right. It's all about the business continuity plan exercise, test, assessment, and maintenance.
Exactly. Think of this as, well, our instructional session on making sure those plans you've worked so hard on are actually, ready for action, not just sitting there.
hmm We're focusing on pages 27 through 29 of the professional practices. And the goal today is really to walk you through this step by step.
Like instructors, breaking down how you build a solid program for testing, for evaluating, and crucially, for keeping those plans alive and effective.
It's all about moving towards real, provable preparedness.
Okay, Professor, let's jump in. First up, establishing the actual exercise and test program. The main goal here, fundamentally, is boosting the organization's readiness.
Precisely. It's the way you confirm that what you've documented, your whole business continuity program, actually works as intended.
You need to prove it out.
You do. It's like a reality check. Does it achieve the outcomes you plan for?
And, I assume, find the problems before a real event does.
That's a huge part of it. Identifying those gaps, figuring out where things might break down, and then fixing them. That's how you improve execution.
Makes sense.
And you can't really do this effectively in a vacuum. You absolutely need support from leadership. Getting their approval, their buy-in for the whole exercise program is step one.
Yeah, without that backing, getting time and resources, probably impossible.
It's a tough sell, definitely. You also need to lay out the program's criteria, what success looks like, and any sort of underlying assumptions you're making.
Okay, criteria and assumptions. What kind of criteria are we talking about? Like pass-fail?
It could be validating recovery times, your RTOs, or confirming team members know their roles. Assumptions might be things like, well, assuming your backup site will be available or key people can work remotely, things you're basing the test on.
Got it. That sets the foundation. Now, the actual exercises and tests themselves sounds like there are many different flavors.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
DRI outlines a whole spectrum. You start with basics like life safety drills, fire drills, that sort of thing.
All right.
Then maybe plan walkthroughs, more of a discussion, talking through the steps.
Right.
Scenario-based tabletop exercises are very popular. You work through a simulated incident, discuss the response. Great for strategy, less resource intensive.
Good for ironing out coordination kinks without actually deploying stuff.
Exactly. Then you have things like notification tests, just checking if you can reach everyone. Alternate site tests actually going and trying to work from the backup location.
Okay, getting more involved now.
Infrastructure and application tests focusing on the tech resilience. Functional process tests looking at one specific business area.
Like accounts payable recovery, maybe?
Could be, yeah. Then you scale up. Full end-to-end operational and tech tests, comprehensive internal tests with all your teams.
The whole internal shebang.
Right. And the most complex are the fully integrated tests. These pull in internal teams and external dependencies. Think key suppliers, maybe even regulators sometimes. It's a buildup.
That really shows a progression, doesn't it? From simple checks to these really complex simulations. Who typically gets involved in these?
Well, your core recovery teams are obviously central, but you might also have observers, reporters documenting things, monitors keeping track of the flow, auditors or reviewers evaluating against those criteria we mentioned.
Okay.
Facilitators are key, especially for tabletops, guiding the discussion. And like we just touched on, depending on the test scope, suppliers and outsourced service providers might be crucial participants.
Right, testing the whole chain, not just your bit.
Absolutely. You need to know if the whole ecosystem can recover.
So how do we come up with good scenarios? We're not just pulling them out of thin air, are we?
No, ideally not. This links straight back to professional practice too, your BIA and risk assessment. You use the risks you identified, the ones you prioritize mitigating, to build realistic scenarios.
Okay. Grounded in reality.
Exactly. The scenarios should include activities that make people use the recovery strategies you've documented. And crucially, test if you can meet your objectives, like RTOs, within the required timeframes.
So you're targeting your actual vulnerabilities. What are the specific steps then when defining a particular test?
Okay, first, clear documented objectives. What specifically are you trying to achieve with this test?
Nail it down.
Second, define the scope. Which departments, systems, processes are in, which are out. Third, the notification process announced, so everyone knows it's coming, or unannounced.
Unannounced sounds stressful, but maybe more realistic.
It can be. Yeah, it tests that immediate, maybe unprepared response capability. The guidance says test at least annually.
Minimum once a year.
Right. But you might need to do it more often. Think regulatory changes or big organizational shifts, mergers, acquisitions, major operational changes. Those often trigger more frequent testing. Developing a multi-year test schedule is really best practice. It lets you build complexity over time, incorporate lessons learned,
Right. Iterate and improve.
and, really critical, define and document your evaluation criteria before the test. How will you measure success? This must include quantitative stuff, hitting those RTOs and RPOs from your BIA.
Hard numbers.
Yes. And qualitative aspects, too. How well did teams communicate? Was decision-making effective? You need both.
Measuring the how as well as the what's. Makes sense. What about all the prep work before the test day?
The pre-exercise planning. It's vital. You need to identify all the resources needed, people, rooms, tech, supplies, everything.
The logistics.
Exactly. Identify all the participants, make sure they know the objectives and their specific roles. Communicate this clearly, including potentially to external parties if they're part of the scenario, like emergency services or even mock media. Provide lists of required hardware, software, whatever resources are needed. Document those requirements. Specify if you're using production systems or a non-production test environment. Very important distinction for tech tests.
Definitely don't want to break the live system during a test.
You really don't. Then nail down the time, date, locations, and create a detailed timetable of events for everyone involved. And one more thing, have a cancellation plan.
A plan to cancel the planned test.
Sort of, yeah. If things aren't lining up, maybe key resources become unavailable, or you realize the objectives just can't be met as planned, you need a process to postpone or call it off before you start.
Better to delay than run a flawed test. Okay, so it's finally go time. How do you conduct the exercise effectively?
Rule 1. Try to stick to the plan you so carefully made. But, and this is non-negotiable, you absolutely must have a clear, pre-agreed way to stop the exercise and declare a real incident if one actually happens during the test.
This is not a drill. For real this time, trigger.
Precisely. The simulation ends immediately, and the real BCP activates. During the test, you need rigorous recording of events, who did what, when, what were the results. Document everything.
Evidence for later.
And finally, once the test objectives are met or the scheduled time runs out, there needs to be a formal declaration. The exercise is now concluded. Then follow shutdown procedures, clean up the test environment, whatever's needed.
Okay, clear start, clear potential stop for reality, clear end. What happens after the exercise wraps up? That seems like where the real value is captured.
Absolutely. Post-exercise is crucial for learning. First step. Debriefing sessions. Get participants together. Review what happened, what went well, what challenges arose. Identify those key lessons learned and agree on improvement actions.
Get that immediate feedback.
Yes, this feeds directly into a comprehensive report. Document the results, provide clear, actionable recommendations for improvement.
Not just findings, but solutions.
Right. Then, create an action plan to implement those recommendations. Document any outstanding issues, maybe new ones found or old ones that resurfaced. Assign each action item to someone specific, give it a deadline, and then track progress.
Accountability.
Definitely. You also need to formally document the lessons learned. Compare what you expected to happen versus what actually happened. Note any surprises. And finally, communicate those results and lessons learned to all the relevant stakeholders.
It really is a cycle, isn't it? Plan, test, debrief, fix, report, then loop back. Okay, that covers testing. Let's shift gears to the second big part of PP8, the planned maintenance program. Testing checks the now, maintenance keeps it relevant over time.
Exactly right. You need a formal program for this too. It starts with defining how and when your plans will be maintained. What's the method? What's the schedule?
So, structure for updates.
You need clear ownership. Who is responsible for maintaining which specific part of the plan? Assign it to specific people or roles. Then prepare the maintenance schedules and the procedures for how reviews will actually happen.
Standardizing the process.
Yes. Create procedures to make maintenance easier. Maybe select some tools, could be specialized software, could be a well-managed document system.
Yeah.
You need to monitor that maintenance is actually happening.
Checking the checkers.
Kind of. And critically, establish a change control process for the plan itself. How do updates get formally proposed, approved, and integrated?
Got it. So what does that ongoing maintenance look like day to day or maybe month to month?
Well, a big piece is making sure all those approved recommendations from your tests actually get incorporated into the plans. Don't let them just sit in a report.
Closing the loop.
Exactly. You need to report on maintenance activities. Let people know the plans are being kept current, Implement change management for the maintenance program itself, too, so that process stays effective. And analyze changes in the entity. New tech, new processes, reorganizations, personnel changes, anything that might impact the BCP needs to trigger a review and potential update. Develop change control procedures for this, and ideally integrate them with your organization's existing change management processes.
Ah, so BC maintenance isn't this separate, isolated thing. It hooks into how the business already manages change.
That's the goal, yeah.
Hmm?
Makes it much more sustainable. Proper version control is also huge. Clear procedures for issuing updated plans, distributing them, making sure everyone who needs the plan has the current, correct version.
Managing the documents.
Right, which means maintaining accurate distribution lists. You also need a process to update plans based on audit findings, internal or external, and that change control process we mentioned. That's the engine driving all these updates, ensuring they're done in a controlled way.
Okay, so it's this continuous vigilance monitoring for triggers, updating systematically, controlling versions, distributing correctly. Let's briefly touch on governance. How does that fit in?
Governance provides the overarching framework. It involves reviewing expectations from various parties, regulators, clients via SLAs, public health guidelines, internal policies.
The why behind the what.
Sort of, yes. Identifying entity-wide processes for review and continuous improvement, maybe adopting a recognized standard ISO 22301, for example, as your governance model.
Okay.
Governance also helps define the required frequency and scope of testing to meet the entity's specific needs and risk appetite, and ultimately ensures the whole program gets the necessary approvals from designated leaders or committees.
Providing that top-level direction and oversight. Now, what about the audit process? How does that interact with testing and maintenance?
Audits provide independent verification.
Yeah.
You need a schedule for first-party audits, essentially. Self-assessments against your own program
You're
requirements.
taking your own homework.
Yeah. And you need to be prepared to support other audits. Internal audit department, maybe customer audits, second-party, third-party certification audits, or regulatory audits. Know their requirements.
So you ready for scrutiny?
Select or develop audit tools. Conduct the audits, monitor the process. The scope of an audit can be broad,
Yeah.
looking at program requirements, plans, templates, test results, maintenance records, the plan repository, documentation controls, versioning, distribution lists.
Pretty comprehensive.
It should be.
Yeah.
Auditing the change control process itself is important too. Then reviewing responses to any audit findings.
Following up.
Absolutely. Confirming that management has responded, action plans are documented, and verifying that completed actions actually get incorporated back into the plan with evidence.
Closing that loop again. Finally, written recommendations. This seems to tie back to the post-exercise activities.
It does. It's about formalizing those recommendations based on test results or maybe audit findings. If strategies or plans aren't working, recommend revisions.
Okay.
Get leadership approval to actually make those necessary revisions. Identify who needs to know, process owners, governance bodies, leadership. Select the right communication methods, maybe different reports for different audiences.
Tailoring the message.
Right. And establish a monitoring process for audit findings, similar to the test action items. Track the issue, who's responsible, target date, status. Ensure things get closed out.
So it all connects. Testing finds gaps, maintenance keeps things current, audits verify, recommendations drive change, governance oversees. It's a whole system.
It really is. A comprehensive and, importantly, actively managed program for all these elements. Exercise, test, assessment, maintenance. It's not optional for real resilience.
It seems absolutely fundamental.
Yeah. Consistent testing validates, thorough assessment improves, diligent maintenance keeps it relevant. If you do these things proactively, it really does provide significant peace of mind and, more importantly, it genuinely improves your ability to navigate those unexpected disruptions.
Well said. So for everyone listening, here's something to consider. Thinking about your own organization, your own context, what's maybe one immediate step, however small, you can take this week to enhance either the testing or the maintenance of your business continuity readiness? Definitely some food for thought there.
Good question to ponder.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Professional Practice 8.